we've been having lively discussion. I'd even call it fun. We've been having a fun discussion about rethinking the smaller church. We've been talking about the new landscape and the new structure. We talked about, Jess, we didn't even get into facilities on the new
Mm.
structure.
Yeah.
Uh, when I was a pastor, a boomer pastor, build ahead of your growth. If you're running 400, you go build a worship center of 1,200 and be ready for it. And oh my gosh, that got a lot of churches in trouble. Boomers got a lot of churches in trouble with some of the mindset that we had. And by
Mm.
the way, going back to the smaller church and this new landscape that we're in, this is more normal than what we've been in. The large church was not normal in the history of churches. That was a boomer phenomenon. That they came in, they wanted the big gathering, they wanted bigger is better. Smaller church is actually more common in the history of churches across the world, across the centuries, and we'll talk about that. Before we do, when we talk about smaller churches, one of the things that come to mind, as we have already indicated, is Cheney and Associates, because they are the accounting firm for smaller churches. Yes, they're accounting firm for church plants. They're the accounting firm for mid-size and larger and mega churches. And the point is, they are the best in the business. They're the accounting firm for the church. You church leaders need to focus on your ministry and let them focus on the finances. And if there's any one thing that you could outsource right away, it would be your bookkeeping, your finances. Boy, I've got horror stories of churches that tried to do it themselves and tried to keep someone happy in the church that's been doing it for quite a while, but things have changed. I recommend you call our folks at Cheney Associates or go to CheneyAssociates.com. You can see that in the show notes. Let them know Church Answer sent you. Let Steve Cheney and his team know that Thom and Jess at Church Answer sent you to them as well. Okay, Jess, I want you to pick up where you were. You were talking to pastors of small churches. I think this goes back to part one of this, and you're talking about small church does have some opportunities. Kind of
Yeah.
just give a review or expand upon that for just a moment.
Yeah. To me, this actually, when I think about smaller churches, there's an excitement in my heart. When I think about churches they're 50 and below, because there's such a tremendous opportunity. Yeah, it's the new landscape. There's a new reality. Um, but there's so much that the potential that exists when you as an organization, I think of it from an organizational standpoint, decrease or grow into whatever size you are, regardless how you got there, there's always an opportunity at this. And it begins by, hey, let's restructure ourselves. Let's take a step back. How are we doing things? How are we operating? How do we create something for the future? But the thing that I think of the most when I think of the biggest opportunity for churches that are in that 50 range is ability to make a personal connection.
Mm-hmm.
Our culture is wanting to be known, wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard. Smaller churches are the best positioned to do this. On top of that, when someone visits a church knowing that it's a smaller size, the expectation is for that. We're not in a smaller church in this particular category, but we're a church that's in the shadow of some very, very large churches.
Mm-hmm.
And so things I hear even for our size churches, well, we wanted to come to a place to see if we can actually feel connected. And it's it's the old saying, every small church is trying to get big, every big church is trying to get small. That idea of connectedness is the greatest opportunity for a church that is smaller in size. I have a new family that started visiting recently at my church, and they said, "Hey, I want to let you know, like, one of the main reason, if not the main reason I'm there, is because of a particular lady in my church who leads our welcome team." And they said, because of her, because when we
Amy.
came, you can say her name, because when we came back a second week and she knew our name, it changed the way we saw this community. And so I get big churches. There's just reality. It's someone can slip in and slip out. In a smaller church, shouldn't happen. If you're if as a pastor you're looking out, you know your people. When you know someone new, the opportunity that exists with that size church is tremendous, and that's what gets me really, really excited to think about.
Well, just think about it, Jess. I made a guest feel very welcome in the worship service recently.
Please don't share this.
I went and sat by her,
Oh
um,
man,
and very close to her, uh, almost cuddling up to her because
stop.
I thought she was your mother. And when your mother finally arrived in the worship service, it was dark in there, and I realized that there was this woman next to me that I had been snuggling to. Oh gosh. I looked at her, I said, "You're not my wife." And she said, "No, I'm not." This was her first or second time visit.
I think it
So
was her second. Oh my
I
goodness, the
she had
awkwardness that ensued. Oh my gosh,
and the
I'm
stories
thankful
that
I caught you in a conversation that Sunday, because that is one of the more awkward things of you've ever done,
nah, not even
inside
close.
inside the church at Spring Hill at least. So
Okay,
yeah,
okay. Here's some other things about the new opportunity. Boomers were the generation, not all boomers, but more than any other generation that wanted to go to the large church. They were attracted to the event, if you will.
mm,
And so large stadiums were built, large church venues were built. And now the generations that have come after them are more like the generations that were before them. They like the closeness, the intimacy, the connectedness that you talked about. And
right,
so they're coming back for that. That is a new opportunity because these churches that are smaller can meet a need that a larger church cannot. Now, I understand you don't want to stay small for small sake, but you may want to start another campus. You may want to start another
hmm,
church, just to keep your church at a certain size. So that's just an incredible opportunity that is taking place right now. That is a demographic and cultural reality that is relatively new. And now I keep on mentioning bits of research that we've done on a new research project, and again, I only got the data last night, so I'm just beginning to dissect it. Church members do not see that opportunity as much as those who are not in church see that opportunity.
right.
That's what the data is telling us. They don't think that they're relevant. They don't think that they the church. They don't think that they can connect with people. Church members tend to have an inferiority complex about the church, and those on the outside have a much higher view of it.
Well, and it's dangerous because it's the expectation. If again, I know I just said this, but just to repeat it, when someone visits a church that they can deduce it's a smaller size church, the expectation is higher. And
Hmm.
so if you can, as a church, deliver on that expectation, you're going to have, with intentionality, you have a greater chance to reach these people. It's when you look at the opportunity. So I guess in a smaller church, bigger opportunity, but also bigger potential for missing the opportunity.
That's true. That's true. But the to get the opportunity is pretty simple. It's connect.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm an introvert, and look how well I connected with a guest. It's
Wait,
God. God.
you did that unintentionally. Okay. We're
I
talking about
guess so.
intentionally connecting here.
Well, here's another thing. We've got this ministry at Church Answers called the Hope Initiative.
Hmm.
Most of the great stories of the Hope Initiative, we'll put the Hope Initiative in the show notes. Most of the great stories of the Hope Initiative came from smaller churches, not larger churches. I talked to a large church pastor. I said, "How'd the Hope Initiative go?" He said, Everybody said, "Well, this is what we should be doing anyway." Well, I'm not saying that's endemic of all larger church
Sure.
pastors' attitude,
Sure.
but smaller church pastors saying this revolutionized our church because only a few had a dramatic change within the
Hmm.
church.
I I talked with a pastor last week, and it was a church running 50 at the
Hmm.
beginning of this year. They're now running 80 consistently.
That's
I said, "What
that's a
is it?"
60% increase.
And I said, "What did you do?" And he said, "Jess, we simply made sure every guest felt welcome, and we went out and we shared Christ." They took who they were as a small church, became intentional about two things: connecting with people who came and connecting with the people who aren't coming. And a few
Right.
events along the ways, but they saw a 60% increase from January to date for those simple two reasons. That's the new opportunity for smaller churches, is making people feel connected, making them feel seen, known, and heard.
I hope this three-part series on why we must rethink the smaller church has been helpful to you. You may want to get some of your leaders together and just listen or view all three of them, one, two, three together. They'll make a good series. Smaller church has a lot of opportunities, and that's why we wanted to conclude this series on the new opportunities. We talked about structures, we talked about the landscape, but ultimately it's about opportunities, and that's where the hope is. Hey, as always, thank you for being a part of Church Answers and the Church Answers podcast. Let me just remind you, we have this incredible resource called the Everything Church Resources Directory. You can look at the show notes and you can download it right now. And it's just what it says, free. It connects you to any type of area of resource you need in your church. And if we don't have it, let us know. We'll add it to it. It's an incredible resource. Download it. The Everything Church Resource Directory is available now for free download. As always, thank you, Cheney and Associates. Thank you, my friend Steve Cheney. Thank you for being the church, the accounting firm for the church. And thank you for letting churches focus on ministry while you focus on their finances. We'll have some new podcasts coming up. Once again, if you're listening or viewing this on the day we released it, happy July 4th and happy birthday, USA. We'll see you in the next episode.